Egypt as a prince returned from exile, he confronted Pharaoh with a very important command from God. "Let my people go." But Pharaoh, who was very stubborn, said no. He didn't care that the Israelites were suffering and wanted to be free. So God sent 10 plagues to Egypt. The first plague was really strange. The Nile River, where all the water came from, turned into blood. The water became red and thick. It smelled really bad and all the fish died. People couldn't drink or use the water. It was a big problem for everyone. But Pharaoh didn't change his mind. Then God sent a plague of frogs. They came from the river and were everywhere. In houses, beds, and even in the food. The noise from all the frogs was super loud, but Pharaoh still didn't listen. After the frogs, God sent a plague of lice. They were everywhere, crawling into hair and onto skin. They made everyone itchy, even the animals. It was really uncomfortable. People tried to get rid of them, but it was impossible. Even in this discomfort, Pharaoh's mind was still not changed. Then the fourth plague hit, and wild animals started showing up everywhere. They went into people's houses and walked around the streets, making everything scary and messy. Lots of animals took over, making it unsafe to go outside. Everywhere was filled with the noise of these wild animals. But even with all this trouble, Pharaoh still wouldn't change his mind. The fifth plague was very sad. A sickness hit all the animals like cows, sheep, and horses. They got so sick that they died. This was a big problem for the Egyptians, who needed these animals. People were very sad, but Pharaoh was still as stubborn as before. The sixth plague was painful boils. Really bad sores that popped up on everyone's skin. It hurt a lot, made people very uncomfortable, and made it hard to move. It was a constant reminder of the ongoing plagues. Even with all this pain, Pharaoh's heart was still hard. Next, God sent the seventh plague, a huge hailstorm. This wasn't just regular hail, it was big chunks of ice mixed with fire falling from the sky. It smashed the plants and trees and hurt anyone outside. Egypt had never seen such a violent storm, but Pharaoh still wouldn't budge. After the hail, God sent the eighth plague, locusts. They came in a giant swarm and ate up everything green that was left. The fields, the trees, all the plants, everything got eaten up. The sky was black with locusts, but Pharaoh was still stubborn and would not change his mind. Then the ninth plague came, darkness. But this was no ordinary darkness. It was so dark that you couldn't see anything at all for 3 whole days. People couldn't leave their homes, and it was scary being in such deep darkness. But still, Pharaoh didn't change his mind. Finally, the last and worst plague came. It was the saddest night in Egypt. The firstborn child in every family, and even the firstborn of the Pharaoh, died. From the smallest house in Egypt to Pharaoh's big palace, everyone was sad and crying. This was the moment when Pharaoh's heart finally changed. After Pharaoh's heart finally changed, he told Moses, "Take your people and leave Egypt." So Moses led the Israelites away from their life of hardship towards freedom. But this was not the end of their story. As the Israelites packed their belongings and left Egypt, they were filled with hope. They walked with their families and animals, carrying bread that hadn't even had time to rise. The night was quiet, but their hearts were loud with joy. But soon, Pharaoh's heart turned hard again. He thought, "What have we done, letting all those people go?" So Pharaoh changed his mind. He called his soldiers and got his chariots ready. With his army, Pharaoh chased after the Israelites, wanting to bring them back. The Israelites, seeing Pharaoh and his army coming closer, were terrified. They felt trapped with the Red Sea in front of them and Pharaoh's army behind them. They cried out to Moses, scared of what was about to happen. Moses told them not to be afraid. He said, "Stand still, and you will see how God will save us today." Then Moses raised his staff over the sea, and something incredible happened. God made a strong wind blow, and the waters of the Red Sea split apart. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on both sides. It was a path of escape, no one could have imagined. As they walked all night, their path illuminated by a miraculous light, they marveled at the sights around them. Through the clear walls of water, they could see fish of every color and size, swimming in and out of the coral in the sea's hidden depths. They saw creatures they had never seen before, wonders of the deep that glowed with their own light, casting a beautiful glow on the path ahead. By morning, they had reached the other side, safe from Pharaoh's reach. When Pharaoh's army tried to follow them through the sea, the waters came back together. The chariots, horses, and soldiers were all swept away. Pharaoh's army couldn't hurt the Israelites anymore. After crossing the sea, the Israelites knew they were truly free. They sang and danced, praising God for the great escape. Moses and the people looked back at the sea, thankful for the miracle that led them to freedom. This incredible journey showed the Israelites that with faith in God, even the deepest waters